She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties.
Matthew and I are couple goals.
The proposal in the elevator was cute.
Tom is oblivious to the way others react to him.
We don't do well when we're not together. We prefer to be together. There's a lot of fucking. That's what it is.
Clip that. Oh God, please clip that, Tom.
But I didn't hate it.
And of course she's wearing the sexiest outfit. Hey, look at you!
You said that all quiet,
I'm not the most obnoxious human in the planet.
You're gonna be all stealthy in our intro.
Because I'm a new lead. Molly's quiet. She's doing the ASMR now.
No, Molly is not quiet. And if you start becoming quiet, I don't know that we can continue this podcast. And you'd be season
concerned.
2.
You're going to call my husband and be very concerned about my well-being.
100%. I'm going to be like, Matthew Biggs, fix her. You broke her. What happened? She's broken.
So, you look great after your week off.
Molly, I did not have a week off. I was in quarantine.
Tomato.
It's not the same thing. I had to quarantine for 4 days from work, 5 days total, because I cut off my hair and got exposed to COVID.
All in one fell swoop.
All in one time.
My chiropractor, my saving grace for my body, was in bed this week. Everyone is getting this new variant.
There were 11 teachers out last week at my school. 11 of us.
Wild.
And so basically all of us were covering classes. If you know teachers, if your kids go to school, don't hug us because we don't want Omicron. But send us some Starbucks gift cards or Barnes and Noble or something. Give us something because teachers are not okay. Honestly, I have a lot of friends that have been teaching for longer years than I have because I taught for 6 years and then went to public libraries and only came back last year. So this is only my second year since taking a hiatus and working in public libraries. So it's technically my 8th year teaching. But my friends who have been teaching for 20 years, they say this has been their hardest year. Not last year when they were teaching remotely, not the year before that we closed down in the middle of the year.
It's gotta be hard.
It's hard because the kids have forgotten how to school.
Right.
And it's just a hard year. There's so many rules and so many protocols. And we wanted it to be this year that everything was normal, but it's not normal.
Trying to make things normal after what had happened is hard. I'm trying to figure out what our new normal is.
Right.
And it's just, the world is different post-COVID. No matter the aisle, no matter your views on it, no matter if you're mask or pro-mask, we can all agree on one thing. It has changed the way our world looks completely.
Absolutely. And when we talk about schools, my kid is a 3rd grader. My oldest is a 3rd grader. The last real school year that he had, a normal school year, he was in fucking kindergarten. Okay?
Which is completely different from 3rd grade.
Completely different than 3rd grade.
There's such different expectations.
Yeah. And this isn't even a normal year because they're still doing masking and social distancing as much as they can. They have had a lot of COVID cases at my kid's school and at the school where I teach. Our district is actually talking about closing schools not completely as they did in 2020, but a school at a time, case basis. We had 17 bus drivers out with COVID protocols.
That's wild.
Not necessarily that they had COVID, but for the same thing
Their
for me.
Exposure.
I wasn't sick. Thank God. I never got sick. I wasn't asymptomatic because I actually just never had COVID, but I was exposed, and that in and of itself is enough to quarantine. Right. And so we have to be extra cautious in the school district. And so bus drivers, we had 17 of them out. I don't even know how many buses we have, but 17 of them is a significant number. I teach.
It sounds like a bit, especially how small your district is.
Yeah, it's a small rural district. We only have 2 high schools, and my middle school only has 600 kids.
I'm laughing. 2 high schools. It's small.
It's a county, though. You have to remember that. It's a county.
Right. As I'm laughing from, I was as I graduated, one of 74.
Right. This is a whole county system, so that is small for a county system.
Right.
I mean, we had 2 high schools in my city, so anyway, so I guess I'm rested, although Friday I really struggled at work. I was so tired.
I bet.
And my students were all like, you're back, and they wanted to hug me, and I was like, okay, everyone just back the fuck up.
Speaking of I don't know if Jesse's going to care or not. Jesse had sent me a text message, and her Friday was, now my sister Jessie lives in Beaufort, and her Friday was super eventful. Mm-hmm. She had found illicit things in the bathroom, like kids, like she's having kids out, like it is just kids have lost their mind.
Yes, they have lost their minds, and teachers are not doing well. But I cut my hair off. I'm pretty happy with my cut.
It's cute. I love it.
I'm not sure I love the color. It's dark, and I don't know like that's that color. Me. Yeah,
I love the dark red on you.
But I don't know if it's me.
It's super Kepner. I love it.
Kepner is like brassier. Kepner is what I usually do.
Did a darker red for a while there.
Yeah, but that's not really how she keeps it now.
Anyways, this is not a Grey's Anatomy podcast.
Fuck, Molly.
This week we are talking about one of my comfort reads, The Wedding Date.
Yes, as our first... Sorry, go ahead.
By Jasmine Guillory.
This is our first of the February romantic book reads. It's not all romance novels, guys, but it is romantic books.
Her other book, The Proposal, is a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. Mm-hmm. This book is... I love this book, and we're going to talk about
What if we become popular enough that we get Reese Witherspoon to come on?
I mean, if we get Reese Witherspoon, I'm going to be pitching
We've got Chessie coming on in March.
You know how many book ideas I have? Maybe that woman will maybe somebody will finally publish me.
Man. Okay, sorry. So we're talking about The Wedding Day. I don't have a physical copy. I listened to the audiobook on Audible, not sponsored. Thank you, Molly, again. # not sponsored.
# not sponsored.
By the way, if you haven't seen Molly's adorably hilarious video on our socials about # not sponsored, please go check it out. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. I laughed so hard. I literally watched it 6 times in a row and then took my phone to Tom to show it to him. I was laughing so hard. Oh, man.
I'm glad I could make you laugh.
# that
sounded # not sponsored. So, synopsis?
Yes, sounds good. By the way, I love our pronunciation of synopsis now. We're all being so careful now that we've been called out by Isaac.
We know Isaac is silently judging us. I don't think Isaac's going to be listening to The Wedding Date. Not a book for him, but I know he's silently judging me.
But Nurse Katie is on our side. She texted us and told us that she agrees that synopsis can be a colloquial regional dialect way to pronounce it. Which is what I said anyway, but whatever. Synopsis. Do it.
What happens when you get stuck in an elevator with a hot guy? In Alexa's case, she gets a date out of it. We follow along as she and Drew start a fake dating relationship that turns into a real one. This book covers what it's like to be in a biracial couple, long-distance relationships, and jealousy, along with some steamy scenes. Did I miss anything? Is that good?
That's a good synopsis.
Thanks. It's not as detailed as yours get because yours are pretty freaking awesome. But I feel like I nailed it.
It's almost like my job includes writing reviews for books.
Fuck you, April, for mocking me. Okay. So at the beginning of this book, Alexa is walking into a hotel in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. She's getting in an elevator to go visit her sister. And as the elevator rises, she gets stuck. And she realizes she didn't even notice this man, which, based off the description, how do you not notice this?
How do you not notice him?
Like, he is hunky. Hunky. And she gets stuck with Drew. And then they get into a conversation, and this leads to my first question.
Yeah.
What do you think the best snack is? Do you think it's cheese and crackers like them? Chips and salsa? What is the best snack?
So I have 2 favorite snacks, and really I would say that chips and salsa is not as portable. Like, you can't just like roll up with chips and salsa and sit down in an elevator and eat them. I mean, I fucking would, but
I mean, I would too. I would eat chips and salsa anywhere.
Like, cheese and crackers seems to be more of like a portable thing, but like chips and salsa and popcorn are my two favorite snacks, and they are go-tos in this house. Like, we have a this is how fat I am. We have a Dollar General. We have a Dollar General like down the street from us. And some days when I have really bad days at work, I eat my feelings, which I do not recommend doing, but I do it. So I stop there.
No judgment.
I stop there after work and get chips and salsa, and I come home, and by the time Tom's home with the boys, which is only in 30 minutes, I've devoured almost the entire bag of chips and almost all the salsa. And I'm like, so that, but I also really like popcorn. That is one of my favorite snacks. I do not like microwavable popcorn. That thing is full of cancer. I eat popcorn that I make myself on the stove.
I need a popcorn maker. I didn't know it gave me cancer.
I mean, there are so many carcinogenics. I think that's how you say that word. In popcorn, like it's microwavable popcorn's really bad for you. But I make it myself.
I love microwave popcorn.
Yeah, well, I make it myself. I pour the oil in the pan, and I pour the kernels, and I pop it.
It's like a lot of work.
It's not though. And I real butter melted in the microwave with real butter and salt, and it's so much better for you than anything else. So those are my go-to, but you really got to eat popcorn when it's fresh. So I don't know that you're rolling around with it in your purse, but cheese and crackers, that's nothing. What is that?
I always have salt and vinegar chips handy. I love salt and vinegar chips.
Oh no.
But I like the salty sweet combos. So trail mix is always a good one.
Oh yeah, definitely. For sure.
I love, that one's a good portable one.
Mm-hmm.
But all-time favorite snack. I love summer sausage and cheese. Like summer sausage and crackers.
It's good.
It's my favorite.
You know, I have to say, if you want salty and sweet and you want to make a salty sweet snack at home, you can make the popcorn on the stove, right? It really doesn't take that long. It's really easy. Then you melt white chocolate chips, okay?
You had me till the white chocolate.
Well, just listen. You melt the white chocolate chips. Then you pour that with salt and butter over it. Oh my gosh, Molly.
Nope. You had me till the white chocolate. I hate white chocolate.
Well, it's not really real chocolate. It's like oily vanilla tasting.
Yeah. Hate white
Whatever.
Chocolate.
It's good.
Whatever. Okay, so let's roll on.
Yeah. Moving on.
Rolling on. When we first meet Drew, he gives us this big, long, sad story about the wedding he's in town to attend. Mm-hmm. Then we learned he tweaked the details to make it sound easier for him. Mm-hmm. Do you think he lied to Alexa, or was it okay because he was just telling a stranger his troubles in the moment, and he had no idea that things were going to escalate the way they did? I
mean, you just met this woman in an elevator. You're probably never going to see her again. I mean, at the time, he hadn't even planned to ask her to the wedding with him. So I don't know that he needed to tell all his troubles. But at the same time, like, dude, he lied. He straight up lied. He made it sound like
Molly broke up with him and it was this big thing. And
side note, I said I listened to this book. I probably inappropriately listened to it a lot at work. I was doing some weeding, and it was a slow week in the library, so I
had earbuds in?
Yes, it was the week before school let out on winter break, and so I had my earbuds in and was like weeding the library while I was listening to it. And every time a student walked in, I was like, pause. Hi, what can I do for you? As I'm listening to this very inappropriate book. I don't tell my students what I'm listening to, so, you know.
They don't need to know.
They don't need to know. It could be music for all they know.
Would you agree to go to a stranger's wedding?
Hell no. Fuck that. Never.
Why not?
I'm an introvert by nature. Nobody believes me when I say this, but you don't understand introverts if you judge people who say they're introverts who appear extroverted. Because here's the thing. I am an introvert because if I have to socialize with more than one person at a time, I'm fucking exhausted and I'm very awkward and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know what to say. I get tongue-tied. I feel like I have to pee the whole time. It's a bad situation. if I had to go to a stranger's wedding with a stranger, mind you, like I'm not even there with somebody that I know, like, no, that's not happening. Absolutely
Hard
not.
pass.
No. I have been a +1 at a wedding exactly one time. And that was when my husband was a groomsman in his best friend's wedding. And I knew the groom and the bride because they were both at my wedding. So it was still awkward because I didn't know everybody there, but I've never, no, absolutely not. That's the only time I've been to a wedding that I wasn't the person that was invited. So,
now I'm awkward at weddings, period. Weddings I've been to, weddings I haven't been to. While it's a good time and everybody's dancing, I appear as an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
But my extrovertness, because of the ADHD, has a limit.
Mm-hmm.
And once I'm done, I'm done. My brain literally shuts off. I can't conversate anymore. I literally Irish goodbye. And
conversate's not a word.
Huh?
Conversate's not a word.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone! But once I've hit that, that levy, I Irish goodbye. I'm out of there. I'm gone. I have done it so many times, and thank God for Matthew Biggs. He will rush goodbye for everybody, and he'll either meet me in the car or the hotel or wherever we're staying, and he'll just I don't know if I could do this.
Yeah, I mean, I married a fellow introvert, so when we're done, we're done. Like, we're done. You know, we want to go, we're going to go. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I've stood in front of rooms of, 50-ish plus people and given us lectures at conferences. And then I literally had to sleep for 3 days. It's not an exaggeration.
No, I remember you talking about this.
I gave a talk at a conference. It was my very first one. My talk was on Thursday. And the conference was Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday I had to work. So I did my talk on Thursday. I also went to the conference on Friday. Saturday I threw up in the shower and couldn't go to work.
Oh, love.
Because I wore myself out. So absolutely not. I'm not going to some stranger's
wedding. Because it's turning it on. It's turning it on.
But Alexa, that's her personality, right? So
she's a public figure.
Right. So she's in politics, so she's networking, she's used to putting on that face, and that's one of the things Drew mentions, that he knows when she's being front facing Alexa versus being Alexa who is with him.
Well, and she's dealing with a whole nother, we're talking about social and mental things you and I struggle with, but she had a whole different struggle. She literally stopped him as they were going into the rehearsal dinner and goes, am I going to be the only person of color here?
Yeah.
And I've never thought about that. Right?
I feel like that was probably coming from a real authentic place because the author
is a POC.
Right. And I'm sure she was writing that from a very authentic place. And I think there was a lot
it's very thoughtful and smart.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot in this book where she brings up race and dating somebody outside of your race and what that feels like. And before Tom, I never dated anyone seriously before Tom. I dated people seriously before Tom, but there was a time period of about 5 years that I just casually dated people, and none of them were white. So actually, when I met Tom, my mom was like, "You sure? You sure? Because you've been it's not been white guys lately." But
you're like, I'm pretty certain. Thanks.
But we never got to the seriousness where we had to have that conversation about being of a different race, right? Like what does this mean for our relationship? What does this mean for our families? What does this mean for future children? That conversation is so much different from we're just dating and I like his caramel colored skin. It's different. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was dating a lot of Latino men. That's what was happening. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, I think she came from a really authentic place. I like that. The book we're actually going to talk about next week also is features two people of color and a woman who is autistic, and the author is autistic as well. And I think
it's going to be a great conversation about talking about mental faculties,
right?
And
I think
emotional differences.
one of the things we push for in libraries is we're really pushing the publishing industry to be more inclusive.
Right.
And I think they're finally listening to that. That's happening. I mean, it's still not perfect, but it is happening. But when you are being inclusive, it's not being inclusive for the sake of being inclusive. And like picture books, for example, you'll see picture books it'll be obvious that they were trying to paint.
Right.
Oh, there's a Black kid. There's a kid that's Latino. There's a kid who's Asian. There's a kid in a wheelchair. Like they're trying to be inclusive to try to be inclusive. Whereas a book like this, it's authentic. It's authentic. It's written by a person of color. She's having a real conversation.
It's a natural part of the progression in the conversation.
Yeah, right.
While we're not just putting a child in a wheelchair in the hall because the book needs one.
Right. Exactly. And I really appreciated that about this book. That because I mean, I'm going to be honest. As a white person, it can be uncomfortable when race comes up in books.
Right.
Like it can be.
Right.
I like the way that she addressed it here. She addressed the uncomfortability and made it clear that like you don't need to be uncomfortable.
It made it feel like an approachable topip. Right. Especially when it's not always approachable. And it's not and let me say this, I want to say this very clear, so I'm clear with our listeners. I am not saying it is a POC's job to make us feel comfortable.
It isn't. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. What I'm saying is she did not have to take the time to write this that carefully and methodically to be inclusive for everyone. She gave us a view into a weird world in a life we're not used to. And she did it beautifully. And
she did it within the confines of a book where they're banging a lot. Like this is a book that has a lot of sex.
Spice. I mean,
it is a true romance novel. And somehow she was able to wrap in there.
Give us a very honest conversation about biracial relationships.
Yeah. So that part of this book, I really did like that she was
a spectacular balance, I think.
Oh, for sure. This wasn't my favorite book.
I know.
I don't read a lot of romance novels. I read a lot of books with romance in them. But I am not a reader of romance novels.
Right.
So this wasn't my favorite. I'm looking up right now what I gave it on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads.
That's average for you.
Yeah, I would say.
It's very apparent by the morning of the wedding they're both into each other. Yet yet they both seem to keep it to themselves. Do you like this about the characters, or do you like the dynamic and dilemma it creates in the story?
So I feel like this book falls into a lot of the cheesy pitfalls that happen in romance novels.
It is a trope, but I love that though.
So this book is the fake dating trope, and it's also the miscommunication trope, and
which I love it.
I just wanted them to stop being stupid. I'm like, this is dumb. Like it took
obviously
a long time.
Care for each other. Stop being an asshole.
And so there are other books that do the miscommunication trope, and we're going to read some this month actually, and I feel like they do it better. They didn't spend the entire book going, and she was thinking this, and he was thinking this, and blah 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 blah. There's like one miscommunication, and then they kind of wrap it up quickly. I think she took too long to get over that, and that was one of my arguments. Right. Like I actually in my Goodreads review say, and this is a big complaint I have about this. The dialogue is super cheesy and the book is very predictable, even for an already predictable genre. So I really struggled with the dialogue. I thought it was so poorly written. Overall, the story was fine. I just thought there were parts of it. I mean, was this her first book?
I think so. Yes, I believe so.
Because you've read other books by her, right?
Yes, I've read this whole chain.
The whole series.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yes, this is her first book. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense to me. Like, I feel like it reads that way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it reads that way.
I had
like a first book.
And I lost it. I'll just go back to these until I can remember what I was going to say.
Okay. No one would know. It's all fun. We're the only ones with the notes.
We've both done variations of long distance relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you think this was a good representation of it?
From my standpoint, not really, because number one, they had money. So they were able
Right.
to fly back and forth. I have no idea how much it would cost to fly from LA to San Francisco. I don't know. Maybe that's not an expensive flight because it's not that far. But like Tom and I were not flying to see each other. Like it
Same.
was,
We weren't either.
we don't have the money to do that. So fortunately we could video chat and talk on the phone. So we did long distance twice. So when he was in Key West and I was in the Tampa area, his schedule was that he was working mostly nights. That wasn't exclusive because of the way his schedule worked, but he was working mostly nights and I was working during the day. So like finding time to actually communicate wasn't easy. So we did a lot of emailing.
Yeah.
And then when he was in Houston and I was in Tampa, and that was a much shorter long distance, we did a lot of video chatting. And honestly, that was harder because at that point I was in love with him. And like, I mean, I was in love with him when he was in Key West, but it was different. At that point, we had practically lived together all summer, and now I can't even see him.
Right.
So for me, this wasn't realistic because they were literally flying to see each other every weekend. And like, when you're in a long distance relationship, that's not realistic. People can't do that.
Right.
Like, people cannot do that.
Okay, so for us, our relationship started long distance. Matt was stationed in Lejeune. I was stationed in Inagos. And
I have no idea where either of those cities are.
Okay, Camp Lejeune's in the Carolinas.
Okay.
And St. Inagos is at the very bottom of Maryland.
Oh yeah, that's a hike.
Yeah. So I was on alternate schedule, so 2 on, 2 off, and sliding weekends at the station. So he had all weekends off. He had a regular 9 to 5 schedel. So Matt would come up to me every weekend. Pretty much every weekend I was off till he got out. And then I got ordered in that time frame. I got orders to Baltimore, which made it a little bit harder. Then he got out. He went to Texas, and I was still in Baltimore for about 3 to 4 months of that. We flew once or twice back and forth in that 3 to 6 months. I can't remember. It's been so long. And then I got orders to Corpus, and that was after we got married. And he was in Houston, and then he would drive. He was going to school and working at Kroger's at the time. He would ride his motorcycle every weekends down to Corpus with me because I was working still. And then we didn't live together till after I had Piper. Full time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom and I did not have that long of a long distance relationship.
Which we did not have the finances these guys have.
No. We what'd you say?
They're a lot closer.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we weren't even that far because I would think driving wise, Key West and Tampa were about the same distance as LA and San Francisco. Yeah. I don't know. California is much bigger than Florida. So Tom's probably laughing at me as he's editing this because he knows I suck at geography. But, I mean, we didn't have that long. I guess our relationship was about 6 weeks long distance the first time. And 4 weeks long distance the second time before I was able to move to Texas. Now, in college, I had a long distance relationship that was only 2 hours, but that guy cheated on me because he sucks at life. So, anyway, he's divorced for the second time and miserable.
Minus the whole travel thing, I feel like the struggles they're having, the jealousy, the miscommunications, I think that's realistic.
I think it also is because they didn't know each other.
Right, which happens in this kind of situation, right?
Right. They met and kind of jumped into a relationship like right away. And I mean, I did that with Tom. We jumped into a relationship right away, but
same.
I don't know.
I can't talk. Same.
Yeah, but you and Matthew kind of knew each other.
I've known Matthew since he started going to Tug Center in 6th grade. So I have had knowledge of and been in the same social circles as him since the 6th grade.
What do you think 6th grade Molly would say if you told her that you end up marrying Matthew Biggs?
Well, first and foremost, okay, I would laugh, and so would Matthew back then because I was obnoxious. But would people hear now?
You were obnoxious?
Fuck off. When people back home, when we first got married, and they heard I married a Biggs, they did not believe it was Matthew.
Because there are more Biggs boys.
He is one of 5 Biggs boys.
Right.
And I was in close social circles with 2 of them. One for chorus and one was just like my friend circle. So when the word was I married a Biggs, people assumed it was one of the other 2 that were in my social circles. Nobody had it is not a pairing people thought. And we have a friend that was very close to both of us, but we weren't in this, I was friends with this person because of music in our childhood, and he was friends with them because of sports. But when that friend that was a mutual friend of ours heard Matt and I were together, he goes, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. I mean, I have never known the 2 of you not as a couple. I think your personalities are different, but you're so complementary. And so I think you're perfect together. I mean, we have had a lot of friends between the 2 of us who have gotten divorced or separated or have interesting relationships. And yours and Matthew's and mine and Tom's seem to be the most stable of all of our friends, which is really
because and out of all of us, I am the least stable of all of us.
But it's funny because we really do. We have friends that are divorced and that were friends of both of ours.
I've been told on several occasions by Matt's cousin's friends, Alyssa, the one that Matthew and I are couple goals, right?
Yeah.
Because of our dynamic. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that based off of their observations.
Right. And I like to think that Tom and I are a little bit like Lily and Marshall.
I can see that.
But we don't do well when we're not together. We prefer to be together.
Bring it back to the book. The whole point I'm saying this is no. You're fine. You're fine. I'm trying to bring it back because I'm out of hand. I think the foundation
how the turntables have turned.
I think our struggle as going from long distance and transitioning into living together, and we literally went from, it was literally a mitosis, right? It was a change of cells. We grew together. Yeah. Sometimes the atom doesn't bond, but this time it did.
Right.
Holy crap, science, right?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, honestly, because Tom and I had a relationship where we did not know each other at all, and then we were basically living together from the beginning.
What a freaking way to find out if you bond with somebody.
Well, but what I was going to say is, when he retired from the Coast Guard, my biggest fear was, are we still going to like each other?
Right.
Because we didn't know how to actually spend time together. The entire time we were engaged, we were sharing an apartment and we weren't sharing a bed because we were on such opposite schedules.
Yeah.
Right. When we moved to Virginia after he retired, at that point we had been married for 7 years, 8 years, something like that.
That math sounds right.
That was the first time that we figured out which side of the bed we liked. It wasn't what we thought it was. But we just had never
oh my God, were you guys both sleeping on the same side of the bed? And neither of you knew it?
No, we weren't. Well, maybe we were. Fuck, I don't know. We never made our bed because there was always somebody sleeping in it. But we didn't even know what side of the bed we wanted. And that's one of those pivotal conversations that you have, right? And spoiler, it wasn't what we thought it was.
That's so funny.
So, but anyway, back to the book.
Date.
Back to the book.
Any characters you love, any characters you hated?
I didn't like that. Was the sister's name Amy? Is that her name?
No,
the sister, not Alexa's sister, Molly's sister.
Oh yes, it was Amy.
Couldn't stand that bitch.
Yep.
I really liked Carlos, the best friend. I thought he was a great best friend for Drew.
Carlos's book is the next one in the series, The Proposal. My favorite character is Theo. I love Theo, and
is Theo gay?
Theo is not gay.
Oh, he's not. Does he come up in one of the other series?
He has his own book. And it is so good. Out of the series, I think Theo's is my favorite.
Okay.
Theo is This book actually, okay, I talk about this all the time. The platonic opposite gender best friend. We don't
but it's usually somebody who's gay. That's why I thought
right.
It's not usually straight.
Perfect example of a platonic best friend and hetero folks.
I was actually surprised that she didn't bring in the cliche that the best friend was also in love with her. Like, I was expecting that cliche.
Right.
I was surprised. She avoided that pitfall. So there you go. I did like Carlos a lot. I thought he was really funny and he was a good best friend for Drew. The description of Drew as physical, like the physical description of Drew, he sounds attractive, but like he just didn't seem like the kind of person I would fall for.
Well, okay, so let's jump into that real quick. I'll go back to my other question, but Drew obviously struggles with jealousy in this book.
Oh, for sure.
Right? First, he's upset with his own best friend. He's assuming Carlos is hitting on Alexa, which wasn't the case when she went to first visit.
Right.
And then overall, like, he gets jealous over her work husband, Theo. Mm-hmm. Do you think this should have been a red flag for Alexa? Or
I think it should have been. And you couple that with the information she got at the party, which was that
him not telling the truth about his relationship with Molly. Yes.
Well, that he wasn't telling the truth about Molly, but also that he skips between girls. That they all have like
and they all love him, and he breaks up with them, but gives them flowers, and
they're all staying friends with him. But like, to me, if you're somebody that bounces between relationships, that's why you're jealous, because you're really looking for your next person.
Right.
Although I have to say, in our relationship, Tom and my relationship, I am the jealous one. Like, I have it in my head, like the Taylor Swift song where she's like, I believe everybody that sees you wants you. Like, that to me, that's how I feel about Tom. I'm just convinced everyone that sees him, because listen, my husband is a stay-at-home dad who does the good things for his sons. He takes them to school. He brings them home. He does all the good things. And there are a bunch of bitches who looking for a new daddy for their kids, and they see my husband and they're like, oh, that could be my kid's daddy. And I'm like, back off, bitch, because I will cut someone.
But I feel like I can say this. I think I can say this with confidence. Like Matthew, Tom is oblivious to the way others react to him.
100%. Like, we have a former mutual friend who literally hit on my husband in front of me. I don't know why I was friends with her. Like, what is up with my self-control, my self-esteem? But he didn't even know it was happening.
No, okay.
He didn't even know it was happening.
There was a restaurant Matthew and I used to frequent that had a solid staff that was always there. Mm-hmm. And they had one staff member who was male that always saw us and would serve us. But he would flirt and look at Matt and only speak to Matthew. And Matt just thought
Matt the one would often pay, because maybe he just was hoping for a bigger tip.
No, he would straight up flirt with Matthew.
Oh my gosh,
hardcore, and Matt never caught any of it.
Yeah, Tom is pretty damn oblivious to it as well.
So let's get back into the book. God, we're off the rails today.
Yeah, but you know what? This is actually a really good conversation, because we're talking about love books this month, and so it's going to bring up things about our own relationships. It's going to. It's just natural. And I think when you read these books, you do that
Put yourself in the situation.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I couldn't do that with this book. And it wasn't because they were a biracial couple, and it wasn't because they were doing a different type of long distance. It was all the banging. Like, I'm not saying that Tom and I don't have sex. Like, we're married. We have 2 kids. Obviously, we do. But that it was literally the next day. It was like after the wedding. Like, okay, 3 days, whatever. 3 days is not enough time to know somebody to just like jump into bed with them.
But not everybody has to have an emotional connection. Okay, we've had this conversation before.
I know.
Okay, let me just go to my next question instead of us having the same conversation.
Oh my gosh, Molly, I'm sorry. I'm really failing this right now.
No, you're fine. It's fine. Alexa has a lot of guilt about her past with her sister. Do you think she's right or wrong to feel guilty about her past behavior? Do you think she should still be carrying it over? Do you understand her struggle?
I mean, I understand her struggle. I don't think what she did was that bad. I mean,
and I really think that
it wasn't like she's the one that turned her sister in. You know what I mean?
I think what it is it highlights her anxiety, right?
Yeah.
our sister's keeper is a mantra, right? We feel responsible for our siblings as we grow up. Our parents say it all the time. When we were little, if the sibling got in trouble, why didn't you stop them? Right?
But that is usually the truth for the older sibling. Alexa's the younger sister. And she was what, 4 years younger than her sister? So like she wasn't even in the same like no, they're not gonna be close like that, you know? Like are your girls 3 years apart? My boys are 3 years apart. Is
the
that
girls
what
are 18 a little under 18 months apart. Piper wasn't even 1 when I found out we were pregnant with Livia.
I forgot that. Well, my boys are 3 years apart, and I worry that as they get older, that they won't be close anymore because you have to think about like when
I
you're
constantly worry about that. But my
a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old, maybe they might get along then. But like those ages are such a wide range, and like I don't feel like Alexa should be holding herself responsible for something that she did when she was still a kid,
right.
Especially because her sister is trying to let it go. Like her sister's like not holding it against her either.
I think her getting this program pushed through is a way of, it really is alleviating Alexa's guilt, right? And I feel like it's a good way for her to finally release it and let it go.
But I have to say, her sister being there at the end was very cliche. It was so cliche.
Sure. It so sure cliche. Was. I mean, and they had this big Jerry Maguire ending, and anyways. Do you like Alexa and Drew's relationship beginning to end?
Like they're not a couple that I was like really hoping that they ended up together. I don't think I would have cared either way. So like some of the other books that we're going to read this month also use the miscommunication trope where they like break up and then you are hoping they get back together. Right? I kind of didn't care. Like I feel like it definitely took a big sweeping gesture. Like obviously Drew was going to have to do something to make it work with Alexa. It wasn't going to have to come from her. It was going to have to come from him. But to me, they weren't a relationship that I was like rooting for.
So the first time I read this, I wasn't fully involved in, I was more about Alexa and I cared about what she needed and what she wanted. I cared for her as a character. It took me reading the other books after to see Drew through other people's eyes and the way he behaves for me to really, really understand Drew and to really want to root for him in this book.
Yeah. So maybe what would have been better was that he be the second book.
Right.
Like to me, there's another, our first book that we covered on the pod was, oh my gosh, what was it?
Our book
Something Borrowed. Borrowed. And that by Emily Giffen. And that is a book series that isn't like a series either. Each book is its own like standalone companion book.
Right.
Like you maybe could call Something Blue as a sequel, but it really isn't because it doesn't focus on the two main characters. It now is told from a different character's point of view.
Yeah.
Right. And Something Blue, you like Darcy. You don't like her. Well, you did, but I didn't. You don't like her in Something Borrowed, and you don't root for her. But you do in Something Blue. Like, I feel like that's the case here. Like, I might root for Drew if I knew him from another story.
Right.
But this one wasn't like it
and I think that makes me more warm to him as a character, knowing him further on. Knowing they later get married.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, they do? They get married? That's cute.
They get married. It's really cute. I don't want to spoil Theo's book for you.
I'm not going to read it.
Okay, well, so
spoilers. You want to spoil it for our pod, but like for our listeners. But
the Theo's book is called. So that answers my next question. Are you going to read anywhere if it works? No,
probably not.
So Theo's book is called The Wedding Party. And spoilers, guys. If you skip forward like 2 minutes, he ends up dating the other best friend. Like they hook up.
Theo ends up dating the other best friend?
Yeah, her best friend.
Oh, the fashion one?
The stylist. Maddie?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maddie,
that's so cliche.
done right?
So cliche. That's so fucking cliche.
But they try to keep it a secret from Alexa because they're trying to plan the wedding, and it's secret love trope. It's super cute.
Yeah.
So, final question. If this was a movie or a TV show, do you have casting in mind?
Like, I feel like I should have done a better job actually looking this up, but I did read through your list, and I know that you put Amber Riley and Danielle Brooks, and I'm sorry I'm stealing your thunder for
Nicole
saying
Bryan?
that, but
Yeah, Danielle
I don't
Brooks.
know who that is. I don't know who that is, but Amber Riley, yes, I love the idea of Amber Riley. I'm looking up who
Nicole Bryan is the Nailed It lady. Nailed it.
Oh, okay. I know who she is. Nicole Byer. Yeah, I know who she is.
Sorry.
Amber Riley for me would be it. She's perfect in my opinion. I think she could be Alexa.
Maybe I'm mixing up her and Danielle Brooks. That would make me really an asshole.
Danielle Brooks is on here too. You have both.
Okay, no, I'm not mixing up two people. I just started Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And Danielle Brooks is amazing in that. So that makes me want her in roles like this too.
I haven't seen that. For Drew, do you want to say who you put? And then
I put Justin Hartley from This Is Us.
Right. And I agree with you that he's probably too old.
Right.
For me, it would be, I got to look up his name, Oliver Stark, who plays Evan Buckley on 911.
Yes.
Fire. Spicy. He would be fire as Drew. I love it. That would be perfect.
The only person I pictured, even when I first listened to this book, for Olivia was Regina King.
I think she's too old.
But she's so demure. She's so refined. And that is what I get from Olivia.
I don't have a better answer for that, but I think she's too old to be Olivia because she's a lot older than Amber Riley, for example.
Now, for Theo, they describe him as like a smaller, bulkier man. But I always had Alfred, I'm going to say his name wrong, Enko?
I think it's Enoch.
Enoch in my mind from How to Get Away with Murder and Harry Potter.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He would be spectacular in that role, even though he doesn't fit the body.
The other person I would say, he's new to Grey's Anatomy. He's Maggie's husband.
Oh, yes!
For the life of me, know his name.
I know who you're talking about. But yeah, he would be stunning, too. He would be a great Theo.
I'm trying to Google it real quick.
And for Carlos, I had Freddie Rodriguez from Bull and
Winston. I don't know what his real name is, but Winston.
And Ugly Betty. But again, I think he's too old for that role. But a younger.
But what about also from 911? Ryan Guzman.
Ooh, that would be good too.
Yeah.
I didn't put Maggie on here. The stylist best friend, Maddie, not Maggie. So I'm gonna have to put that one on the fly. I don't even think I have Maddie in mind.
I don't
know. But
probably I don't know. I can't think of a good Maddie.
Was there any scenes that were a favorite for you in this book?
I will say this book had a lot of spice that was good. I like. I don't know. The first time that they have sex, that was hot and spicy. I don't know that was my favorite part. I think I texted you this. I had never read a book before where they talked about putting on or taking off a condom.
Yes.
I had never, and I was like, oh, okay. Like Alexa says something like, this needs to come off and something else needs to go on. And I was like, what the fuck? Is she really talking about a condom right now? Like, that's sexy? I don't know. But I did like the spice. Huh?
It was thoughtful. I mean, it's realistic.
Yes. I like this. I will say this is another pitfall of cliche. Okay, please explain to me the unlikelihood that they would all end up at the same bar in LA.
Serious? It was San Francisco, but
San Francisco.
Oakland,
no,
whatever. That
would not happen. Absolutely not. That was ridiculous. It was so far-fetched.
And of course, she's wearing like the sexiest outfit Maddie could find, and
right. It was so far-fetched and ridiculous, and like, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. 100% no.
I like her friendships. I think her friendships with Maddie and Theo make me like her as a character more. Mm-hmm. And you don't always get that in books, so it's nice to get that well-rounded.
Even though it was really cliche, I do like the end. the end
where they get engaged in the elevator. It's super cute.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about the scene at the proposal for the city council.
Where she gets all the support. Yeah.
And he comes up. And that to me, he meets her sister. That was super cliche, but it was very cute.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the proposal in the elevator.
The proposal in the elevator was cute, but I actually forgot about it, which is why I didn't remember that they got married. I forgot about that.
And like he moves there, and they live in her cute little house, and and they talk about her house more in the other books. I want to go to her house. I want to be in how warm and cute and quaint her house is.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Overall, not one for me to reread. Like, it's not that I don't really have any intention of reading the other ones.
This series is a comfort series, so I don't
totally see that. I
read them all. Like when I need to escape, I don't just listen to this book. I listen to this book, then the next book, then the next book, then the next book.
No, I totally see that. I mean, that's me with Twilight and Harry Potter, or not. Oh my gosh. Hunger Games.
Clip that. Oh God, please clip that, Tom.
Fuck. No, that's me with Twilight and Hunger Games, and really To Kill a Mockingbird, because even though that one's a deep thinker, I've read it so many times that like that's a comfort read for me.
It's your soul, yeah.
But I actually thank you for introducing me to it. There were some good things in it.
I like her writing style. Did you see the physical book?
I did not see the physical book. I tried to get it from the library. My local library didn't have it. The library the next town over, I was on the wait list, and it just hasn't come in yet, so I haven't actually seen the physical book yet.
Text messages are like conversations in here. They don't break it up like it's a text like in other books. And when they change point of views, they just do this tiny little heart. It's not a big dramatic change. It is just...
Can you remind me, were there dual narrators in that? I don't remember.
No,
that's what I thought. It's a woman that's narrating the whole time.
She did a beautiful job, and she narrates some of the other ones too.
I think because it does change point of views, my preference would be that there was another narrator.
I think a masculine narrator for Drew would be really interesting.
Yeah,
would be really interesting.
Yeah. But I didn't hate it. It's definitely not the worst book you've made me read.
I'll take the W. I'll take the W.
And let's be honest, a 3 from me is pretty good.
That's what I'm saying.
If you get anything above a 3, like it's a book that I'm going to reread. It's one I really liked. So
it's going to be a new favorite.
Right.
All right. Well, what's next week, April? What do we got?
Next week, we've got The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. And it also is fake dating. It's also Reverse Pretty Woman.
It is such a Pretty Woman book. I don't even care.
And all of these are on our social medias. You can definitely see media
our Spice ratings.
Plural, so I shouldn't say social media. Medias. You can see them on all of our social media accounts. And then we are going to read The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood the week after, and then we'll wrap out the month with Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell.
Which I haven't read that yet.
It's so good. But yes, we're doing romantic books this month, and I'm excited. I think it's a good month. It's February, so stack them in. Little love for Valentine's Day. It's a little cliche of us.
Do a reel, a TikTok post. Tag us with your favorite romance books.
Please. We love being tagged in things. You can also email us questions if you've read these books. Like, for example, The Love Hypothesis is all over the socials right now.
Right.
If you're a fan,
be a part of our conversation.
Yeah. Send us questions. We love that kind of stuff. Nurse Katie just texts us. You don't get to text us. You have to email us. But Nurse Katie can text us.
Well, till next week, gang.
Yes, that's all. So have a great day. We'll be here next week.
Great.
Yay.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April and not those of anyone else. Today's book was The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. Your book besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins, editing by Thomas Watkins, and music is Sleep Sweetly by Brigida. Don't forget to follow Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.